On a quiet Sunday morning in New York City, billionaire CEO Ethan Cole sat alone in a corner cafe. The world knew him as a powerhouse, a man who owned skyscrapers, private jets, and a fleet of luxury cars. His expensive suit was sharply pressed, his watch worth more than most people's yearly salary. Yet behind the polished exterior, Ethan carried a loneliness that no amount of money could fill. He stirred his black coffee absent-mindedly, staring at the city rushing outside the window. His calendar was always full: meetings, negotiations, dinners with investors. But his life? Empty. No wife, no children. Just endless nights in a penthouse so big it echoed when he walked through it. Then life surprised him. A small shadow appeared at his table. When he looked up, he saw a little girl, no more than 8 years old, clutching a crumpled $50 bill in her tiny hands. Her hair was tied in a messy ponytail, and her shoes were slightly worn, but her eyes, big, round, and filled with innocence, sparkled with determination. "Mister," she said softly, her voice trembling but steady enough to hold his attention. "Here's $50. I just need a dad for one day." The cafe fell silent. A spoon clinked against a glass somewhere, but all eyes were on them. Ethan froze, his mind spinning. At first he thought this had to be some kind of prank, maybe a hidden camera show. But when he saw her lip quiver, her knuckles tighten around that $50 bill, he knew it was real. He leaned forward gently. "What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered. Her story poured out in pieces. Her school was hosting a father-daughter day event. A special day where dads came to school, spent time with their daughters, built projects, and played games together. Lily didn't have a dad. Her mother worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table and couldn't attend. Lily had been saving that $50 from chores and birthday gifts. She thought maybe, just maybe, she could buy herself a dad for one day so she wouldn't feel left out. Ethan's throat tightened, his chest aching in a way he hadn't felt in years. He had spent his entire life signing deals worth billions, but in that moment, the crumpled $50 bill in her tiny hand carried more weight than any contract he'd ever signed. For the first time in years, someone didn't want his wealth, his power, or his reputation. They didn't care about Ethan Cole, the CEO. They just wanted Ethan, the man, the human being, simply to be there as a father figure. He sat there frozen, emotions warring inside him, and as Lily looked at him with those hopeful eyes, Ethan realized something profound. This little girl hadn't just walked up to his table, she had walked straight into the emptiness of his heart. That was the moment everything began to change. Ethan couldn't say no. Something deep inside him shifted the moment Lily looked at him with those hopeful eyes. That afternoon, he found himself standing in front of her school, not as Ethan Cole, billionaire CEO, but simply as dad for a day. Walking into the brightly decorated gymnasium, he felt strangely nervous. For years, he had given presentations to boardrooms filled with the world's most powerful people without breaking a sweat. But now, surrounded by balloons, children's laughter, and proud parents, he felt like a stranger. Then Lily's small hand slipped into his, grounding him. "Come on, Dad," she whispered shyly, tugging him toward the first activity. The day unfolded in ways Ethan had never expected. Together, they built paper airplanes in the craft corner, Lily's giggles filling the air each time one soared or crashed across the room. They painted matching T-shirts, played relay games in the gym, and even joined the silly father-daughter dance circle. At first, Ethan felt awkward swaying under the disco lights, but when he saw Lily's face glowing with pure joy, he forgot himself. For once in his life, he wasn't thinking about stocks, profits, or deadlines. He was simply living in the moment, and it felt right. Other parents began to notice. Whispers circled the room. Some recognized him as the reclusive CEO who rarely appeared in public. But more than that, they noticed something different. Lily's beaming smile. The little girl who often sat alone was now glowing with happiness, holding on to Ethan like he was the most important man in the world. For Ethan, The realization hit hard. He had built an empire worth billions, but this feeling of belonging was something money had never bought him. The day ended with a simple group photo. As the kids lined up with their fathers, Lily clung tightly to Ethan's arm. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. Then as the last game wrapped up and parents began to leave, she threw her arms around him and held on tight. "You were the best dad ever," she said softly, her little voice cracking. "Even if it was just for today." Ethan froze, his throat burning with emotion. He wrapped his arms around her, and for the first time in years, tears filled his eyes. She didn't see a billionaire. She didn't care about his private jets or skyscrapers. She just saw a man who showed up when she needed him most. That night, Ethan sat in his penthouse, staring at the city skyline. The silence of the room felt heavier than ever. He picked up his phone, called his assistant, and did something he had never done before. He cleared his entire schedule for the week. He wasn't going back to being just a lonely millionaire. That little girl had awakened something in him. He wanted to be there for Lily, and maybe even for her hard-working mother, not just for a day, but for a lifetime. And so, what began with a crumpled $50 bill turned into something priceless, a second chance at love, family, and the one thing Ethan Cole had been missing all along, a home.